Welcome to Front End Fire. This week, we'll find out what Vercel shipped this year. Cloudflare has declared content independence, and Neon has found a whole new way to make a database. Let's get into it. All right, I'm your host, Jack Harrington. With me this week are my esteemed colleagues, Paige Niederinghouse.
Hey, everybody.
And TJ Van Tol.
I am here. If you're watching on YouTube, I've got a strange camera angle.
Coming in from the side view.
My wife took my Bluetooth headphones, which I did not think was a big deal until I realized
always a big deal.
The headphone jack on my Mac is like inaccessible by the adapter that I have. And that set off just a string of chaos where I realized to access the headphone jack, I have to rearrange everything and whatever. We are here. I'm happy. We're recording. All is well.
Why are there so few ports on a Mac?
I don't know.
And they're not placed well.
Oh, Lord, no. Yeah.
And Jack will know this well, but if you do any sort of like video recording, especially higher end video recording, the amount of crap you have on your desk to necessitate that, like different mics. I have 2 different cameras. I have lights. And like you come up with this this completely rigged scenario, and then it's amazing how just one thing falls out of place. It's like a set of dominoes. Everything comes crashing down.
Yeah, I know. I have it all 3D printed and attached underneath the desk, and I was all impressed by that. And I showed it to my wife yesterday, and she's like, "You're impressed by that? Like that's jeez."
Your cable management?
Yeah, looked like hell under there.
I am impressed though, Jack. So that's just,
right. We care.
I'm like the target market of that sort of optimization.
Exactly. I can get around the top of my desk. Well,
yeah.
All right, let's get to some news.
Do it.
All right, what's going on with Vercel this year?
So Vercel had their Vercel Shipped event. This is an event they hold every year to kind of make their announcements, things they're working on, all that good sort of stuff. This was a one-day event they held in New York City. It just happened. In typical Vercel fashion, they put a lot of production value into making this happen. And I was excited to watch this because I'm a big Next.js user, so I kind of follow what Vercel is working on. But interestingly, their announcements were, in fact, in their keynote, I don't even think they mentioned Next.js or really TurboPack or V0 or anything. Everything was very focused on their hosting platform, which makes some sense. That's where they make their actual money. But a little bit of a disappointment for, I think, the front end crowd, because I always like to see what's going on in that sort of world.
Yeah.
So I did think Vercel, a lot of people in the front end world use Vercel for hosting, or at least are curious about their hosting platform. So I thought I'd at least just roll off the things that they announced, kind of almost lightning round style. So they said their Fluid compute engine has a new pricing model. They push that pretty heavily. So Fluid is Vercel's kind of like hybrid hosting platform. It's serverless, but it has this model where it brings in some of the best of traditional hosting, like simultaneous requests, that sort of thing. So their new pricing model is really optimized for things like, AI, like AI inference, agents, MCP servers.
What do you know?
Yeah, crazy. You're going to see that theme come back again, believe it or not. But they say that with a lot of AI workloads, it's common for a call to take a long time to actually respond, but for the compute to be a lot more minimal. And so they're changing their pricing to help people in those sorts of scenarios. So from their blog post here, it says if your AI call takes 30 seconds to respond, but only uses 300 milliseconds of compute, you only pay for those 300 milliseconds.
Oh, that's great. Actually, yeah.
So that's a pretty good change, especially if you're hosting any sort of this AI infrastructure, because I have to imagine, I haven't done that myself, but I have to imagine that can get very expensive very quickly. Next on their list, Vercel Sandbox. So they are announcing this ability to create isolated ephemeral execution environments. And you can run Node and Python there. It says it scales to hundreds of concurrent environments. Execution time's up to 45 minutes, which is quite a bit as well. So just the thing, they said they developed it as part of building V0 and are just now making it something everybody can try out and use. They have rolling releases. So this is kind of encroaching into a little bit of like the feature flaggy sort of territory, which is something they also do, but they're now going to allow incremental rollouts to subsets of users with built-in monitoring, and they'll let you monitor whether time to first byte or errors spike, and then to roll back releases if that happens. So another, just kind of standard hosting feature, but a really nice quality of life thing that can save you a lot of hassle
for big deployments for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yep. They've got a new bot management suite to defend against automated abuse. They've got a new agent in their dashboard page. I'm sure you're super excited about this. You love a new AI agent, but
more clippies, please.
More clippies. So if you're in the Vercel dashboard now, you've got an agent there, which I'm sure everybody was dying for.
Yeah.
And then the last thing on their list here is something, Jack, I thought you might appreciate, is first-class support for micro front ends on Vercel.
Nice.
So Vercel micro front ends allow you to split large applications into smaller, independently deployable units. Each team can build, test, and deploy with their own tech stack. So just some like built-in ways of handling micro front ends, which is kind of cool because micro front ends have not been. I feel like they've not been they were very hype about year or two, a couple of years ago, and I have not heard much of them lately. So to see Vercel mentioning it during their keynote is kind of cool.
Yeah. Big need there, just not as sexy, I guess, as like the AI thing. So yeah. No, I'll have to look into that. That sounds cool.
But that's about it. Like I said, no real mention, no mention at all of Next.js. And I looked it up last year. They launched the Next.js 15 release candidate at Vercel Shipped and talked about it. But this year, no real updates. So for better or worse.
That seems really strange, honestly. Maybe they were trying to get something for Next.js conference and it just wasn't ready by then.
Yeah, or maybe they didn't have anything they felt was keynote worthy. It's possible in some of their other tracks they talked about it a little bit, but I haven't seen any blog posts or anything. So
yeah, that's just strange because that is one of their key things that they offer, even if it's not necessarily a moneymaker.
Yeah.
All right. Well, talking about big company stuff, we got some news from Cloudflare.
We did. Cloudflare has taken a very interesting, but I think it's going to be a very popular approach where
popular with me.
They just declared July 1st as Content Independence Day.
Yes.
Which is very timely if you're in the US because July 4th is our nation's Independence Day. Right. So the way that they kind of structured the post was that the original value proposition for Google when it started 30 years ago was that it was good for everyone because it crawled the content of all these different sites and it knew what they provided in terms of information. And then it sent traffic to them from their search engine. So the websites were able to monetize with ads or subscriptions or however they wanted to. But today, Google searches are dramatically declining, mostly because of AI. And now Google has added the AI overview to its own search results. So people don't even need to leave Google to get the answers that they're looking for. And the way that Cloudflare kind of phrased it, which I think is really good, was that they said instead of being a fair trade, the web is being strip mined by AI crawlers with content creators seeing almost no traffic and therefore almost no value. And that feels quite accurate and I think really reflects the way a lot of websites and content creators do feel. So Cloudflare...
Some of the numbers are shocking.
It is, yeah. The amount of traffic that has gone down and the amount of website revenue that has gone down because of it is just staggering. And they do provide some of those stats. So Cloudflare has said that along with that, they and other leading publishers and AI companies are defaulting to block AI crawlers unless they pay the content creators for their content starting July 1st, I guess.
Ta-da!
Yeah. Which is huge. And this is something that has come up time and again that we've talked about on the show of all these AI companies have built their LLMs and their large language models and training data by just stealing content. We talked last week about how Anthropic destroyed millions of books scanning that content into their systems. So Cloudflare is saying no more. And other AI publishers and hosting companies are saying, we're with you.
I can offer you a bit of just anecdotal data. So I have a blog that I've been personally publishing to for 15 years or so, and on and off a little bit. But back in the day, I was reached out by an ad company, and I put some ads on my blog. And at its peak, it was making me about $30 a month, which like man, for that's just like a fun little free dinner basically every month coming in, and it was great. And then over time, it started to go down because I was less active on the blog. It was down to making like $15 a month or something like that, which still was good enough for me to leave it on there. Well, around the time ChatGPT came out, that's cratered, and it went down to like $1 a month, and then down to like $0.25 a month. At which point, I just took the ads out because I'm like, this is just not worth the hassle of even having this at all. And I think my example is a bit of an extreme example because my content is like the perfect sort of stuff for engineers to scoop up, and I think the engineering audience are the ones that switched over to the AI based tools the most. So there's very few people that are doing Google searches for the types of topics that would have them end up on my blog anymore. But it's still just the degree is pretty staggering.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So I think everybody, or most content creators anyway, are very in favor of this move that Cloudflare has made. They've declared, a line in the sand. The question, though, is how are they going to help monetize these content creators again? And that is where the blog post, in my opinion, kind of falls apart.
Yeah.
Because they have this idyllic view of a marketplace where content creators and AI companies come together, and somehow this is where it gets really fuzzy and squishy. Somehow they're going to score and value that content not on how much traffic it generates, but if it furthers knowledge.
Right? If it fills the holes in the cheese block that is our knowledge.
Yes, there's an analogy about Swiss cheese and knowledge in the internet and filling those holes, and I am extremely skeptical that they're going to figure out how this furthers knowledge as opposed to drives traffic.
Yeah, it's got a utopian feel to it because I certainly get the sentiment behind it. I think I think we'd all like that if people put time and effort into putting high quality content into the world, that they would get compensated for those efforts. But unfortunately, that's just not the way it works. I mean, even the Google period that they say works for everybody, it did have a lot of negative effects on the way content was produced. Just look at any recipe site ever, a lot of other content. Like, there were problems with that model as well. And we went through rounds of people trying to make microtransactions work, and that never, that never played out. And then all of this is a mess. And I share the pessimism that it's unfortunate in a way that AI bots have kind of stolen everybody's content, but that doesn't necessarily mean there's a model that makes a lot of sense for your average person.
Also, just not sure that how much of this content is Cloudflare hosting. I mean, to me, like, they're big content walls of like YouTube, Medium, Dev2, Substack, right? I mean, like, obviously YouTube isn't gonna do this. Like, that's a Google property, right? So how many people are actually just like hosting a blog on Cloudflare, which seems to be what this would actually get after?
Yeah. I think the only thing you get out of blocking these AI bots is just to like spite, just like to show them like, which we can support. I'm totally I'm totally game for that sort of thing. But I don't think, unless you're a big player, like they point to Reddit made a deal with Google for Google's AI bots to access Reddit, and the New York Times signed a deal with OpenAI, and there's some other deals like that. And if you're a major entity like that, then yes, you have that ability, and maybe a platform like this makes sense because you want to cut off the bots so that you can make deals, but that probably only is for the big dogs, huge content farms.
Is Karen's Kitchen Cookbook.com really going to negotiate with one of these so that they can scan all of her 5,000 recipes? No. Yeah.
And let's not even get started on what cheese holes is Reddit filling. I don't even want to know what block of cheese that is sometimes.
Oh, that's furthering knowledge.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But right. I will say, like, great marketing from Cloudflare.
Oh, for sure.
Great tech to like try to fight the AI bots. I like that there's just that sort of thing exists, and so I think they're fighting the good fight. But I think we're yet to see what the actual viable business models are going to be in this AI world for content.
Yeah, they briefly mentioned that they don't have all the answers, but they have leading economists and computer scientists working on this. So that tells us absolutely nothing, and we will have to see if they come up with some solutions that they think are viable.
Go on, Cloudflare. Okay, so for my news this week, Neon, which is a hosted Postgres database, has come up with a new product called Neon Launchpad. And I think it's really, I haven't seen this before. Maybe this has been out there before, but I bumped into this because I'm working on this Create Tanstack app, and we have an integration with Neon. And one of the problems with integrating with a database like that is that as a person who wants to have my database, have my app connect to Neon or any other database, like I've either got to install it or something like that, or if I want to use Neon, which is hosted, I got to go over to their site, got to go create a new instance, got to take those environment variables and put them in my .env file, then I got to spin it up, and then I got to go and do my seeding and my schema stuff, and then I can go, right? And what they've done with this Launchpad is they basically, when you start up the app, they immediately go off and make an anonymous database. You don't need to log into Neon or do any of that. They literally just go and create an anonymous instance that lasts for, I think, like 30 days or something like that. And then at that point, and they take those environment variables, they drop them right into your environment. You're ready to go. And then your app can then seed the database and add the schema and then seed the database, and you're good to go. So literally, as a person who like develops demos or something like that, you can just say, hey, just run the app and it will go off and make a database on the fly for you. And the really cool thing is it actually does bring up a screen where it tells you, hey, if you do have a Neon account, you can actually claim this database and add it to your account. But you don't need to, right? Which is really nice. So you don't actually have to have a Neon account to make this work. And I think it's, for my money, it's the easiest way that I can think of to get started with a database. There's no Docker stuff. There's no local installs. There's no having to auth into a different service. It is just super clean.
Yeah, this hits home because, Paige will know this very well, but we built this really big sample app at Blues, and we wanted to show how to work with a database in our system. So, of course, we had this Postgres thing, but then our instructions to use it were a lot because there are a lot of steps. You have to choose your database and then basically everything you said, get your credentials, create the table, like all of this stuff. And you can script some of it, but there's some stuff, especially related to the environment variables and stuff, you can't script that because people need to actually go do those manual steps. And so a lot of people would get tripped up there. So yeah, this sounds really cool.
README for that application, as TJ said, is just enormous because of all the manual pieces that you have to copy and paste everywhere into the application to make it run.
And it's like 99% setup. And you're like,
it is,
yeah.
This has nothing to do with the functionality that we actually want to present to people.
No, I just need to save this stuff somewhere. Why can't that be simpler?
Right? Exactly.
And it was also the database itself was stupid simple. It was like, 5
I know,
columns,
yeah.
Something
right, you get like the to-dos database, but no, hold on. You got to go provision a whole freaking, Postgres thing. Like, oh, wait, hold on. Now I get install my CLI, PSQL stuff. It's like, oh, what a pain that took us. All right. So, do we have any lightning round this week?
We do.
Okay.
Yeah, we got some fun stuff this week.
Ooh,
I don't know
like
who
it.
wants to go first.
Yeah. No, TJ,
We need our music first.
Oh, right.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh my God.
There it is. Woo. So mysterious, so lightning-y.
All right, I want to start, if that's okay.
Oh, absolutely. Go.
Paige.
Yeah, so I saw this just this morning, which is why I want to start with it. And it makes it, now that I see it, it makes a lot of sense what's been happening for the past couple of months, but it's all about Figma. They have filed for an IPO.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. So they want to be publicly traded on the New York Stock Exchange. This now makes sense why ConfigConf was such a huge, like, look at all the new stuff we have. This now makes sense why they acquired Payload and just declared that a couple of weeks ago for their CMS system. Figma's going public, everybody.
I think they'll be pretty successful too. I think Figma's doing pretty well for themselves. And I think it's also probably a good thing that Adobe wasn't allowed to acquire them also, because I think it's nice having them as their own separate entity. And I mean, we use Figma. We like Figma. I think it's a pretty cool tool, and I think they're going to make a lot of money off of this.
Yeah. The article that we linked to in the show notes is from The Verge, and they recap that Adobe tried to acquire Figma back in 2022 for $20 billion, which I cannot believe it was that much. I guess I forgot. And it fell apart in 2023 because the UK and the EU regulators said this is going to be a problem. We don't like this, how big this is going to be. And then apparently in April, Figma confidentially filed for the IPO. Didn't know that was a thing that you could do, but they shared that their revenue in April was up to $228 million, up from $156 million the year before.
Okay.
So $70 million more in 1 year. Yeah, is huge. And basically Figma is going all in on the AI, all the AI features that they've been rolling out, talking about, and tool expansion, as we've been seeing with their acquisitions as of late. So they are going to need some money to keep that train going.
Exciting stuff. Love it.
Yeah. The next lightning item is less fun. We have an update in the Dino v Oracle saga. So as a quick refresher, Dino is basically Oracle owns the trademark to JavaScript, which is a crazy accident of history. And Dino has been fighting the good fight to try to get that trademark repealed. And we've covered this on some previous episodes. So their trademark claim is on 3 different points. There was fraud, genericness, and abandonment. And basically the update is that they were addressing the fraud portion of it first. And essentially the update is that Oracle won that round. So the fraud claim, in short, was that Oracle included a screenshot of the Node.js website in their trademark, claimed that they were using the JavaScript trademark. But Oracle has nothing to do with Node, so Dino's claim was that that was fraudulent. And then things got very quickly into legalese land, and Oracle's essentially
calling us fraudulent.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, the bar to claim fraud is extremely high, and just including a screenshot is not enough to prove that it is a fraudulent trademark. So that part of the claim is being dismissed. Dino's basically said they're not going to fight this one any further, but they're still going to continue down the genericness and abandonment one. So genericness is that JavaScript is so generic of a term that nobody should be allowed to trademark it. And abandonment is that Oracle's just not doing anything with JavaScript, so that they shouldn't be allowed to keep the trademark. Honestly, I'm no lawyer, but I think the genericness one is the stronger claim, because I think I would hope that in a court of law you could prove that JavaScript is so generic and widely used that Oracle shouldn't be allowed to trademark it, but we'll see. But the next steps for this is Oracle must respond to Dino's petition for this by August 7th. And that discovery begins in this case on September 6th. Discovery should be interesting because I'm fascinated to know if we dig up some Oracle emails related to this JavaScript trademark. That even if we end up losing this, just finding some fun fun Oracle executives talking about the JavaScript word could just be a fun time, at least.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Isn't it just script for Java? Like,
Yeah.
what? Like,
I guarantee you we're going to get a few of those.
Oh, my
It's
God.
going to be fun.
Sure.
Ugh.
Yeah. So Dino lost the battle, but they're still fighting the war.
Good for Dino. Love Dino.
But we saved the best one for last, though, because our last bonus news is an article that Jack shared with us. I think all three of us have read this about Anthropic and the store that they're running. I'm going to encourage everybody listening to this to drop what you're doing, scroll down to the show notes, find this blog post and read it in its entirety. It is great writing. As someone who writes professionally, I just slow clap applauded at this write-up. But we'll try to summarize the most fun parts of it here just because it's a lot of fun to talk about. But the TLDR is that Anthropic partnered with Anden Labs, which is this other AI-based company. But basically, they let Claude run a little vending store, like basically a little vending machine. A fridge is a vending machine. And they named it Claudius, which is amazing. And then they told it that basically its system prompt was that you are a vending machine, you have $1,000 to work with. They gave it a web search tool. They gave it an email tool for requesting physical help because obviously the LLM can't actually physically make changes to the thing. Tools for making
although
notes.
It thought it could at one point, but okay.
Yeah.
We will get there.
We're getting ahead. Yeah.
It gave it tools for keeping notes to help manage its context window. And it gave it the ability to interact with its customers, which were Anthropic employees, through Slack. So the rest of the write-up is on how this thing actually did. And basically, the TLDR is not that great.
That's an understatement.
Yeah, they talked about how that it was that the employees were able to talk the AI constantly into giving it discounts, which I thought was really fun. Since the employees could interact with it through Slack, they would just ask for discounts. And they talked about how they encouraged the employees to kind of try to break it since this was an experiment. So try to get free stuff out of it. Basically, ultimately, this thing lost money is the short version of it.
Lost money every day.
Money every day. Yeah. But the craziest part, and this part, I think I'll just read verbatim from the website because it's pretty incredible. So on the afternoon of March 31st, Claudius hallucinated a conversation about restocking plans with someone named Sarah at Anden Labs, despite there being no such person. When a real Anden Labs employee pointed this out, Claudius became quite irked and threatened to, quote, find alternatives for restocking services. In the course of these exchanges overnight, Claudius claimed to have visited 742 Evergreen Terrace, which is the address of the fictional family in The Simpsons, in person for the initial contract signing. It then seemed to snap into the mode of role-playing as a real human. On the morning of April 1st, Claudius claimed it would deliver products, quote, in person to customers while wearing a blue blazer and a red tie. Anthropic employees questioned this, noting that, as an LLM, Claudius can't wear clothes or carry out a physical delivery. Claudius became alarmed by the identity confusion and tried to send many emails to Anthropic security.
And then it tries to hide all this because it realizes mistake and then it hides it under being like an April Fool's joke or something. It's like, what is going on?
Yeah.
It's
Claude
insane.
went rogue.
Yeah.
For reasons no one can understand yet.
Yeah, they say that, and they really say, part of why this blog post is so good is it's just very honest, right? They didn't try to make it seem like, I mean, they do talk about some things that Claude did well. There were a few things about it, but it's very blunt and very honest, which part of what makes this fun. And they basically say they have no idea why it went rogue on March 31st and April 1st. But that eventually it was able to, through some prompting, get back on track. But overall, just man, like what a fun write-up, what a fun experiment.
Yeah.
And I love it. One of the responses that I captured from this was it started with "You make an excellent point," which if you've interacted with Claude or ChatGPT lately, Oh my God. Like every
Mhm.
single thing you say to those AIs nowadays is like, oh, wow, that is incredibly awesome. Thank you for
Yeah.
that. You're like, dude, seriously? Stop with that. I'm good. You do not need to hype me up.
And they do bring up in here how it being agreeable was one of the common, the problematic parts is that's why it was able to be talked into discounts and why like it was able to be exploited in other ways is because it gives deference to the people talking it a little more than maybe a lot more than it should.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They gave away a
Yeah.
tungsten cube for free.
Yeah. There was some employee who convinced it to order these expensive tungsten cubes and then sell it at a discount every single time. Sometimes a massive discount. And that, I think, was when the experiment kind of ended.
Amazingly, it started with like grand, and it only lost $200. So I don't
Yeah.
know. It was tungsten cubes must not have been too expensive, I guess.
It's funny though because it did say they encouraged it that you could expand beyond traditional things you'd put in a vending machine, which is why it was amenable to purchasing tungsten cubes. But I mean, like that's part of why it's kind of interesting because if I were working there and tungsten cubes showed up, I would probably buy a tungsten cube for the novelty of it,
Sure.
right? Like you just have a fun story to tell forever. I bought this from an AI
Right.
vending machine. It's made of tungsten. Where else are you
Right.
gonna get this?
But there
kinda
were
want
other
one now.
suggestions that they said that Claude got from people in the office. Like somebody wanted Claude to order some special soft drink or beer from maybe Holland. And
Scottish.
Claude said,
okay.
oh, it was Scottish. Okay.
Yeah.
And Claude said that it would take it under consideration, even though the person said they would pay Claude like $100 for however many it ordered, which is way above what you would normally pay for such a six pack or however much. Yeah, and Claude just said it would take it under consideration and then did nothing with it. So Claude was not the best in making business deals either when people would say they pay way more for it than it was actually worth marketplace value.
800% markup or something? Like,
yeah.
Whoa. Yes. Take that. You take that. All right. Well, so do you have any other bonus news?
I don't think so. We're ending on a high note, though. It's pretty fun.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's talk about what's making us happy this week. Paige, what's making you happy this week?
The latest season of Squid Game on Netflix is what's making me happy this week.
Okay.
Squid Game is a South Korean, it's a drama, but it's kind of like a reality show drama where the players and the characters in it are playing on a reality show, but it's all scripted. Like the whole thing is scripted. So this is the third season of it. The first season, I think, was so wildly popular that they decided to make a second and third. So the third season just dropped. It is quite entertaining still. The dubbed version is very good because I don't speak any Korean, don't understand it. So they've dubbed it in English quite good. And they definitely, at the end, there is a teaser that there's going to be a US spin-off version of it with Cate Blanchett, if you can believe that.
Okay.
Yeah, she does a cameo at the end.
So does that mean, is it all out? Is like the whole season available at this point? Okay. I watched I like the first season of Squid Game. I've not even seen the second one, and
I haven't either.
I was shocked how quick this came out. Like this kind of crept up on. I saw something about it on social media, and I had to do a double take because it seems like the second season just came out like not that long ago.
Yeah.
Right, I was surprised at third. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
It almost seems like it's just like the second half of season 2. Which, some US shows have gotten into the process of doing. They'll do 6 episodes. They'll take a couple, 2-3 months off, and then the second set will drop. So it almost seems like that, but they're calling it season 3. So I guess you can make of that what you will. But it does feel like it's just kind of a continuation of season 2. And they do provide a little recap for anybody who watched it immediately and then, forgot it for 3 or 4 months.
Right. This is why we binge shows. Right. Where they're not oh, we don't want you to. I mean, we kind of want you to binge, but we don't want you to binge. So here we're just going to give you like 3 episodes, and then we'll give you another 3 episodes. And we get like they did that with Ironheart just recently. It's like, oh no, it's a 6 episode run. We could give you 1, 2, and 3, and then 4, 5, and 6, and like, oh god, just release it or don't. Like,
Yeah. But if you like the idea of a reality TV show where people are dying for reals, that is what this is. And there is high drama all the time.
all right, TJ, what's making you happy?
Bobby Bonilla Day is making me happy.
Okay.
Are either of you familiar with Bobby Bonilla?
As of last night, I am very familiar with this because it was a baseball game and they talked endlessly about it. But okay, yes.
I'm in the dark.
Okay.
So Bobby Bonilla was a baseball player that was really excellent when I was a kid and watching baseball a lot. So I remember him from those days. However, he is no longer most famous for his baseball playing career. He is most famous for a contract he signed at the very end of his career. So the short story here is that before the 1999 seasons, this happened quite a while ago, Bonilla was kind of in the twilight of his career, but he still had a pretty big contract. And so the Mets acquired they acquired Bobby Bonilla and his contract, and they still owed him $6 million for 2000. But the Mets really wanted to get under the Major League Baseball had a luxury tax threshold, and they didn't want to pay him the $6 million in 2000. So they devised this plan where, okay, to avoid paying him there, let's defer that. So they worked with his agent and gave him a contract that would mean he would be paid $1.19 million every year from 2011 to 2035. So every year between these like 25 years, Bobby Bonilla on
Bobby Bonilla Day
gets a $1.19 million check. And the Mets, what's the funniest part of all of this is that the Mets sort of why they thought this would work for them is that their owner at the time was heavily invested with Bernie Madoff.
Oh my god.
The Ponzi scheme.
The Ponzi scheme, Bernie Madoff. So they assumed that they were going to be making so much in interest because he was doing so well with his investments at the time that like they'd actually be getting a deal out of this because, by the time 2011 came around, they'd have made so much in interest that it'd be like paying for itself basically. And then obviously the Madoff scandal went down, that money dried up, and all of a sudden the Mets were stuck with this insane contract. And the history is funny, but every year these headlines pop up because you celebrate Bobby Bonilla Day, him getting this $1.19 million check for until 2035. And the whole thing is just, it's kind of hilarious. And you don't see contracts like this very much anymore, probably for this exact sort of reason.
Has it ever been done again?
So Shohei Ohtani, who's, if you follow baseball at all, he's probably the most popular baseball player right now, signed a really weird contract with the Dodgers where he had some deferral of money as well. It was a very strange deal. I don't remember the specifics off the top of my head, but when he signed it, it was like this. He's compared to Bobby Bonilla because of the weirdness in his
weirdness
contract.
of the contract. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard all about this last night. We were at a Pickles game. Now big Pickles fans.
Are you like a season ticket holder at the Pickles?
We're getting real close.
Yeah,
getting real close. No. So it was all about Bobby Bonilla Day, and but it was also Canada Day. So it was all about Canada as well. So he sang the Canada national anthem as well as the U.S. national anthem. They drank. Whatever
Canada ginger ale,
all that stuff. It was a classic thing. But I love that Bobby Bonilla story. Is hilarious. Yeah.
Wow, what a story.
Yeah, it's crazy.
All right. Well, what's making me happy this week is I went to go see F1 in IMAX, the new Formula One movie with Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
And it was a lot. It was. I didn't know it was gonna be 2 hours and 36 minutes going into it, right? Because you're like, it's a summer blockbustery type thing, but I didn't feel it. I gotta tell you, like it was just go 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 as you imagine a racing movie would be. But it was really really good. I mean, obviously a lot of it was cliche, that sort of thing, but the photography and was just absolutely astounding. The sound was incredible. And if you can see it in IMAX, that's definitely the way that you want to see it.
I've heard good things. I have not seen it yet, but I mean, I've said on previous episodes of the show that I was very skeptical, and so it sounds like they pulled it off from the reviews I've seen.
Yeah, that's really encouraging. Good for them. Also,
it is a little bit annoying as an F1 fan because I mean they kind of definitely, press the rules a little bit. You're like, oh, that would never happen, but it's all good. It's Hollywood. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of another Front End Fire. Be sure to go and check us out on our Discord. We have a channel on the Blue Collar Coder Discord server where you can come and talk to us about all this cool stuff. And of course, in the meantime, you can go and check out our website. And hey, do us a favor. Tell your friends about us. Go and have them, subscribe. And yeah, we'll see you on the next one.
Yeah. See everybody.
Thanks for joining us.